Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves. You know, as much as we've talked, everything you just walked through makes total sense in my mind for the mom, right? Because that's like the stereotypical story that you hear. Oh, mom, gave up her dreams or her this or her that to stay home with the kids because didn't want to be raised by somebody else. Childcare is so expensive.
Right.
And even as like open-minded as I think I can be, and as much as I love you and as much as I've seen it work, it still sounds weird when it comes out of your mouth, right? Because it's like, I know you have an entrepreneurial spirit. I know you had a bunch of like irons in the fire when you decided to give that up. What was there like a little bit of a, I don't know what the term is, ego death or something there? Like, because I feel you own it. When the first time I asked you what you do, you're like, what do I do? I'm awesome. My wife works and kills it. Yeah. And I get to work out and hang out with the family and do jiu-jitsu and I cook and I clean. I'm fucking the badass Mr. Mom.
Right.
And I know that you own that, but was there some weirdness when you're making that decision?
Somewhat, but it certainly, I think part of the problem when people say like stay at home, especially mom, is what that's usually attached to, is even if it's not intentional, there's kind of a condescension attached to it. Right. Like, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom, like you sitting on your butt, like, or are you working out to keep your husband happy, like, or whatever.
You're a kept woman, et cetera,
all
et cetera.
That. And, so when someone says that about like a dad, there's sort of more condescension attached to it, even if it's accidental. Right. And it usually comes from people who, by the time they're 60, they spend most every night like drinking too much and crying about the fact that they don't know their kids, right? So it's like a weird double-edged sword. Right. Like they, I could never be a stay-at-home anything. And it's like, well, all right, you might want to try it. But for me, like, I don't know, my mom's family especially, they were all like country people, like farmers and stuff like that. So like a farmer's a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
He doesn't leave and go to work. He walks outside and starts working, and he's there for his kids, and he is there for the family. So I would think there was some sort of, some conscientious questioning of like, what am I doing? Especially because I was like working my ass off. I love having all these different jobs and like being dynamic and but it didn't really occur to me that like I was like, I'm not lactating. You know what I mean? Like I haven't turned into a female. Like I still turn wrenches every day. And maybe that was kind of the other thing is like being at home with my kids. Like I didn't turn into a lady. Right. Like I'm still a dad. I still like to lift weights and like hammer nails into stuff, so I became like the project doer.
I've seen the work that you guys do on your Alaska house. That's more than a full-time job. Right.
That's all me. Right. Like, so someone's got to carry that water. So, and I just never really had a problem doing that. But also I know a lot of people that just, forget like your dad is busy and he's not around. Like there's just like a lot of kids without dads, like full stop. Like they're not present, and that sucks. Like those kids end up really confused in life. They don't understand like anything, they're missing out on something usually. I'm not speaking for everybody. Hats off to all the single moms that kill it out there. You know what I mean? But I was like, I am not going down that path. Like my kids like need their parents, and so that was kind of the energy, for lack of a better term, that we went into it with. And, as like I said, this is kind of winding down. The kids are older. They're in school. It's not necessary. But what it's done is it's opened up the opportunity for me to, like, we bought an investment home in Alaska. I'm on the 40-foot scaffold, like sanding the log cabin to restain and chink it, right? Like that's me, not Carla, which is fine. She doesn't have to if she doesn't want to, but if I'm there for it, that's just kind of my role. And that's sort of prototypically like a dad's job, right? Is to do all the, who's going to carry all those 2x6s?
Right.
Me, you know what I mean? So like that just kind of became the role that I just sort of jumped right into. And like from the outset, I was like, it's just farm life.
Right.
Like, hey, the sink is leaking, well, go turn the water off and take the kids to school, go buy a new sink, install a new sink, like that became like what I did. And that now we're not spending $500 on a handyman. And
oh, I wish it was $500. Try to find like a plumber these days. Good luck.
No kidding. So like, and every time I did something like that, every time I cooked like a dope brisket,
yeah, thanks for the meat, by the way.
Yeah, no problem, man.
It's amazing.
Happy to, bro.
I was about to trade my wife in for you when you brought over that brisket. I was like, oh, this is like the best meat I've ever had, hon.
Yeah, from Austin, bro.
You gotta step it up, dude. Hey, this quick interruption is brought to you by me, Scott Groves, the host of the On the Edge podcast. This podcast is brought to you by me. I'm a loan officer who can help you with a mortgage in all 50 states across the United States. I also coach loan officers. So if you are a home buyer who's looking to get a mortgage, if you're a realtor who's looking to partner with an awesome loan officer, or if you're a loan officer looking for coaching, get in touch with me. It's those sources of revenue that allow us to produce this podcast and get out a new episode to you every week for the last couple of years. So if you're looking for a mortgage, if you're looking for a mortgage lender to partner with, or you're looking for a mortgage coach, I'm your guy. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. I've been around both your daughters at jiu-jitsu. They're so tough. How much of that being around when dad's working, seeing the life skills, helping you carry the 2x4s, helping you turn the wrench? Because I get the feeling that Violet's going to intimidate a bunch of men when she gets older. Because she's 100%. She is a tough gal.
100%.
We were rock climbing and she's like just showing the boys up and like,
right.
You can tell she has the energy of somebody who grew up with dad.
Right.
So like, how much do you think she's just been stronger as a human being because you were around all the time?
I mean, I would like to take full credit for that. She has my genes and her mom's genes, and her mom is like, captain of the UT gymnastics team and like a scholarship rower, so she's not unaccustomed to like hard work. Right. But yeah, it's definitely it's a difference, right? Like when a person has like a parent, I don't want to say like a dad, like that's kind of like one thing that encapsulates all men who have kids. But when a person has two role models, one of them is this like total like ass kicking, like professional physician, whatever, lawyer, CEO, and then they have someone that's like, hey, I bought you a bow today. Like, you want to learn to shoot a bow? Like they get both of those inputs, right? And so jiu-jitsu, that was my call. Carla knew I was a martial artist, and I was like, hey, our daughters are not going to be easily rolled by dudes, especially when they go off to college or whatever. Like, I want them to be able to take care of themselves. And, Carla saw the wisdom in that, but I was like the primary driver on that. And yeah, like you said, like you see dad like carrying stuff and like, no, get off the television, get out here and help me carry this sack of gravel, like but if you go out into like middle America, not like economically middle, but like the middle of America where it's like farmers and stuff like that. Like there's girls out here riding horses, for real riding horses, and like farm life. And that was just kind of what I was able to bring to her. And yeah, it's evident, like the kids that, you see it, like Violet is tall and beautiful and funny, and she's a goon, dude. Like,
yeah, she's a very feminine goon.
Yeah,
I love
exactly. She's so sweet, but like she'll double leg you. Like there's like watch your mouth, bro. Like there's no messing around. Like she got into an altercation like some kid was beating up some other kid. This was a couple years ago, like ground and pounding him. And she like grabbed the kid, double legged him and like mounted him. And she got in trouble for it. And I was like, Violet, you know, you really shouldn't be fighting in school. And she's in like second grade at the time or something like that. And, you know, she was like, I know, Dad, it was real sad. But, you know, this kid was like in fifth grade beating up on some first grader. And I was like, you double legged a fifth grader? It's like high five, like ice creams for everybody. You know what I mean? So
good job protecting your buddy.
Like, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that energy like definitely like made its way into the kids, and that's just due to like being present, like being in their lives, like showing them who you are. Right. Like, and you don't, like, kids don't learn through words, right? Like, you can't tell them how to act. You have to show them how to act. And, you know, and it's an interesting check on you, right? Because, like, if you're like, God, you should not do whatever it is, and then you go and eat candy when you told them not to or whatever, like, oh man, like I gotta put the candy down too or whatever, you know? So yeah, it definitely, but it also opened up a door for Carla, because I was able to, like, you know, their dinner's always on the table, but I'm not making salads. Like, I'm grilling steaks and, you know, I'm still boiling it up. Right. But, you know, she gets to come home and like have kind of free reign to like be mom with the kids. And so, but yeah, like that, it opened up that door for both of us to be there and like really have like an influence on those kids. But yeah, I did kind of turn them into goons a little bit.
In knife fighting, I don't know if there's belts or ranks or years of experience, like, but you can kill somebody very quickly with a knife. Can you explain to us why and how does this even come to be?
Yeah. So, you know, so I started I did karate, started wrestling because I was like, I saw folk style wrestling, right? And I was like, this is obviously a martial art.
Right.
Like it's objectively a martial art, and it's an incredible one. And I can learn it just like as an after school sport, like sign me up. Right. And then I got to college and I was kind of like dicking around. I was like, there's like a judo club and there's like a taekwondo club. And I was like, I like fighting. I like martial arts. I like being tested. I like knowing if I lose, it's because you're better than me. Like, there's no one to blame but me. Oh, well, you're boxing and he's so much taller than you. Yeah, he is.
Right.
He still punched you in the face more than you punched him in the face. Like, lose, right? And I couldn't really find anything that, like, suited me. And then, like, I don't know if you remember when, like, this was, like right after Iraq popped off, like, all the movies became like The Bourne Identity and like Taken and, you know, stuff like that. And I was like, what is that? You know, and that was all like Filipino martial arts. A lot of it was based in Filipino martial arts. So I started looking into what Filipino martial arts were, and they're called, some of them, I was like, they're called Kali or they're called Eskrima. What is this about? Right. And I found a school in Austin, Texas that taught Filipino martial arts. And it wasn't like a Krav Maga school where they also taught it. Like, it was like a Filipino martial arts school. I was like, cool, I'll go check it out. Surprisingly, one of, if not the best instructor in this branch of Filipino martial arts, called Pakiti Tersha Kali. Excuse me.
Is Kali like the knife or the name of the family?
Yeah, yeah. You can think of Kali as like the family name. Okay. Like you would say karate.
Yeah.
And maybe there's like Shotokan and Kempo, right?
Got it. So like in jiu-jitsu, this would be like the Gracie Barra family.
Something like Kali, that. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So this guy teaches Pakiti Tersha Kali, and I have no idea what that means. And he's also a guru in an Indonesian martial art called Silat. And I have no idea what that means, but it looks dope, you know? And I was like, oh, let me go see if this guy's legit. And turns out he's like the foremost instructor on the planet outside of like the Philippines. Like he's a grandmaster, and he was like 33 at the time, and his name is Leslie, and he had spent he graduated from UT, and then he just like worked as a waiter and would like save a bunch of money and then like travel to the Philippines and like live there for like 3 months with like the linear grandmaster of the system, train like 10 hours a day, then fly home, make a bunch more money. And then he would like fly to Indonesia. Like he like lived with cannibals on like an Indonesian island. And he's this like white bread, like guy, right? And I was named Leslie, right? With like sort of questionably short khaki shorts when I met him. And I was like, this guy's like super preppy. I was like, but he's also like Indiana Jones, right?
Right.
This dude's awesome. He's like super well behaved. He's from Georgia, so he's got like excellent manners and his like shirt's tucked in, you know. And I was like, wow, like look at this guy. And I started training with him. And if you've ever done martial arts, like for any period of time, you know what a master looks like, right? Like if you've only done jiu-jitsu, but you went to a karate class and your partner was Lyoto Machida, you would know immediately, like, this is obviously someone who's the best at the best. Like right. You can just see the movements and the fluidity and the mastery. But he was also this excellent instructor. And I was like, I'm hooked. I'm in. So started training like every day he offered classes. And, I actually coached CrossFit at his martial arts academy.
Oh, wow.
Dear friend, love him to death.
So explain Kali. It's like it's with a knife, right, or with sticks?
So the way that, and I won't speak for other systems because, like with all martial arts, there's so much internecine conflict. But the way that we do it is, there are some things to understand. The first thing is like, the rattan stick is absolutely a stick that you can use to hit someone in the head with, right? Like it's definitely a weapon.
It's like a billy club, right?
It's a piece of like rattan, and it's about the length of your arm plus or minus, right?
Okay.
But real quickly you realize like, oh, if I can do like these 2 strikes with this stick, I can do them with a T-ball bat. I can also do them with a machete, a pipe, or a knife. Like if I have a knife kind of like in stabbing grip, you can slash with it. Or if it's in sort of like an ice pick grip, those same strikes that you learn to like strike with a stick, those are the mechanics that you need to use any other weapon, essentially. So the way Kali works is, everything you do everything you train in should have the most effect possible, right? Like if you're a 14-year-old boy and we've got to go to war tomorrow, what I teach you right now should work with a weapon. And if it doesn't work with a weapon, we're not going to teach it because it's going to get you killed, right? So I loved the mentality of like efficiency. Like there's no artifice to the system. And also like if you're training with someone and you're sparring and like they hit you in the hand, even with the rattan stick, oh, it hurts. You lost. It's over. Because if that were a machete, I just cut off 4 of your fingers.
Yeah.
Like that's the end. There's no like kind of covering up and eating punches in a knife fight, right?
Right.
Like it's either the Leslie used to say, and I don't know if this is him that said it, but there's no ties in a knife fight. Like there's no, oh, he punched me more than I punched him, so he won this round. One or both of you is dead, right? So if you're not perfectly accurate, it's like fencing. If you're not perfectly accurate, you lost.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no
draw in fencing.
There's no draw in fencing. That's exactly right. You won, you hit him, and he hit you. you both died.
Right.
Right? Like it's not like I love boxing. It's like top 3 favorite sports.
Yeah.
But if you're arguing with someone and his friend hits you in the back of the head with a baseball bat, it's different.
Right.
Right.
You can be Floyd Mayweather or Mike Tyson. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe Mike Tyson. I think that guy.
I think Mike Tyson.
I think that guy has a skull like an orangutan or something.
To the head. Yeah.
That guy's crazy, man. Anyway, funny story. I was at the Wynn one night, super late playing poker, and Mike Tyson walks in.
This is already a Vegas story.
And he's got the 2 biggest fucking scariest bodyguards I've ever. Like, these dudes made Suge Knight look small.
Right, exactly.
And I go to the dealer and I'm like, whoa, first of all.
Right. Yeah.
Second of all, I'm like, why the fuck does Mike Tyson need bodyguards? He's like, no, man, he comes in here all the time. You don't understand. Those bodyguards aren't there to protect Mike Tyson from you. They're there to protect you from Mike Tyson, because people would walk up to him and just start talking shit and thinking they were going to fight Mike because, you know, they're drunk and they just lost $100,000 gambling or whatever. And he's like, dude, oh yeah, Mike's pretty much beat 3 guys at the Wynn to within an inch of their life because they thought they were going to be tough. So now he can only come in here with bodyguards to protect our clientele from Mike. And I was like, wow, that's wild. But even him, if you have a bat or a knife or a gun, doesn't matter.
And that's kind of the scary thing, right? And that's sort of the Achilles heel of sport martial arts, right? Wrestling, Muay Thai, boxing, BJJ, especially BJJ. I think, you know, BJJ creates such good BJJ fighters so quickly.
Whoa, that was a giant bug.
There it is. It's a grasshopper. You know, it creates such good fighters so quickly because you can essentially go to 99% of, I'm going to cripple you. And then the person can just give up, high five, keep rolling. Right. So you can train with the utmost intensity.
Yeah. You've been about a centimeter away from snapping my ankle off.
Right.
And then I just get to tap and we get to start over again. Where if that was a real fight, I would not be walking normal for the rest of my life.
Your wife would be helping you out of the bathtub, right?
Yeah.
But it's always sort of like confined, right? Like boxing, you can't hit below the belt, whatever the rules are that people point at, right? But it's a sport at some point.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't have in your head that not everyone's playing a game, you're going to be a guy who arm bars a dude on the street and gets stabbed like 10 times in the stomach, or gets his head kicked in by your friend, this dude's friends, or whatever it is. Like, and that had occurred to me. I was like, I don't know anything about like knives. And then I was like, oh God, everyone has a knife.
Right.
There's knives everywhere. There's not, like, if I break this glass, I've got like 3 knives, you know?
Right.
Oh God, you know? And so I was like, I need to figure this out like real quick if I want to like not be so freaked out every time I see like a contractor with like a carpet cutting knife on his belt or whatever, you know? And the other thing too is like, I think most people that really study martial arts, like the first thing you understand is how vulnerable you are.
Oh yeah.
Like it doesn't matter how good you are. Like you're vulnerable.
Have you ever been knocked out?
Mm-hmm.
So I was boxing with Eddie Sanchez, and Eddie Sanchez used to be my boxing instructor. Great dude. I don't know, like 6'1", 130 pounds, or one of these crazy super lightweights, you know?
Right. He
probably walked around at like 150 and then would cut down to like 135.
Right.
And we were boxing, and he was this guy who was like a journeyman, and then he's at Pachanga Casino, and he's like eating nachos. And the dude who was supposed to fight for the title that night gets out of the limo, slips, falls, and breaks his elbow. So they go up to Eddie and they're like, hey, can you make weight in 5 hours? And he's like, he gets on the scale. He's like, I guess I could drop 12 pounds in 5 hours. So he does. He fights for the belt that night and ends up winning like a WBC, whatever, it's flyweight or something. No, I'm good. So he was the champ, and then, proceeds to get his ass beat in the next fight, because now there's expectations.
Right.
Anyway, a phenomenal boxer. And crazy story, he's driving home from a boxing match with a prospect, a kid who's under 18, who he was like very fatherly to. They get into a fender bender with some meth head, and the meth head comes charging for the car. He gets out. He's like, Scott, I punched this dude in the face harder than I've ever punched somebody in my entire life. He went down. He got back up like a fucking vampire because he was so methed out of his mind. His face was split open like the Predator.
Sure.
Like I could see his chin bone all the way up to the cartilage on his nose, and he stabbed me in the chest, collapsed one of my lungs, and so Eddie never fought again because he only had one lung. It punctured his lung. They had to remove it. They had to remove like 3/4 of his lung. So his cardio was shit because he had like one lung.
He's on 50% capacity automatically.
Yeah, but he was a great instructor. So we're going at it and we're sparring one day, and he's like, hey man, calm the fuck down. Like, you don't really know what you're doing, but you throw a really hard punch. So like we're sparring, we're like we're throwing some water here, but calm the fuck down. And I was like, wow, I'm fucking badass.
I'm sparring with Eddie Sanchez.
Yeah, exactly. This guy's like just pivots to the side. And to this day, I don't know if it was my kidney or my liver. He hit me so fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like my brain was still alive, but my body was dead.
It's weird, right?
It's so weird. It's like just turning off the lights on your body. And I fell to the ground and I'm like twitching like a dead fish. And like you're totally aware. Yeah. So you're like, I need to get up. He's going to punch me in the face. He could kick me in the face. Luckily, we were friends. He just walked off the ring. He goes, you'll be fine in 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm on the ground like fucking twitching like an invalid. And I can't move my body. It's like, it's an off switch. And I remember thinking about it after that, like, oh, I'm never going to get into a street fight. Because if somebody landed that punch in a street fight and then stomped my head, I'd be dead. And so when all these guys at the gym sometimes they're like, yeah, well, what I would do in a fight, I'm like, what I would do is try to de-escalate it, buy the guy a beer.
Yeah. Right.
And then run away. Listen. And if he's still coming at me, I'm going to grab my gun.
Yeah. And first of all, like just full disclosure, I used to be possessed of that, like, I will fight.
You had that little man syndrome, didn't you?
No, I had I don't know if you would call it little man syndrome, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But it was more just like, I wouldn't talk to you that way.
Right.
So you must think I'm garbage, and I don't appreciate that. And
such a Texas thing.
That's exactly what it is. It's that old school, like, sometimes you got to stand for something,
right.
And it did not always serve me well in life.
Right.
Like sometimes you got to draw a line and stand up, and it's like, oh God, I'm in jail.
It's the worst.
Oh, he died. Oh God.
Right.
So, but you get a situation like that where. You think about like the story that you just told. An aging boxing instructor accurately touched you in the face.
Yeah, I do with one lung.
Yeah, and he shut off your entire nervous system. That's dim mak. That's like old school, like mystical death touch, right?
Right.
And an incompetent dope on drugs nearly killed him.
With a knife.